My name is Jack Hunter. I'm a filmmaker and musician, and you're listening to The Movie Raid.
It's time for The Movie Raid, and tonight's victim is director and musician Jack Hunter, Paranoia Tapes. Hello.
Hello, what's going on?
What have we been up to today? We've been promoting the Paranoia Tapes, and also you also have a podcast show as well that you've been trying to kick around too.
Yes, I do. I'm on a show called The Tales from the Podcast with Justin Bussell, and also Two Guys, One Crypt with Justin Bussell. Tales from the Podcast is obviously a podcast that is directed towards and only for the Tales from the Crypt episodes and Tales from a Crypt Keeper and all things Crypt Keeper related. Two Guys, One Crypt is actually a new podcast that we're doing, and what we do is we discuss really bad films that people submit to us. Films that are so bad that they're good at the same time. That's what we're doing right now. The first episode we talked about space truckers, and then the second episode that we're going to be recording this week, we're watching Monstered. Basically, a serial killer in the same vein as Jack Frost, the indie B-rated film. A serial killer gets turned into a giant shit and kills people as giant shit.
You can see how bad it sounds as it smells.
Well, the thing is, I watched it last night. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. There's some moments in there where the acting is just atrocious, but you get through it. It's just a low-budget film that someone said, hey, let's make a giant shit, a serial killer, and literally that is what happened.
So what's the plans with the show? Do you plan to get it out on other platforms, or do you want to just mainly stationary and just invite anybody who loves terrible movies and other film-related projects?
Well, right now, the podcast is going to be live on iHeartRadio and all the other streaming platforms. We're already kind of out there, especially with Tales from the Podcast. It's been out for over a year and a half. Gained a little bit of following and some sponsors from that. But this new one is one that we're really promoting because we think it's hilarious. I think it's something that people would want to listen to. And literally, when we dissect these horrible films, they could be like, yeah, I get it. Yeah, that makes sense. It's pretty cool. It's pretty fun. We're on all platforms. Wherever you're hearing this podcast, I'm sure, just type our name and boom.
Now, oftentimes, working with especially low-budget independent filmmakers would make a line of films, of course. But how does a filmmaker actually separate between interest and this is what you like rather than being serious of actually filming?
The first Paranoia Tapes film was pretty much that, exactly as you described. And then we saw the reviews, we saw the constructive criticism, as I say, from the trolls that we've gotten over the years. And then we adjust the format of the film. The first film, we wanted to just, make a found footage film. Literally, I paid for everything. We listened to the listeners. We listened to the audience. We tried to do what they wanted to see in the sequels that followed it. And it also brought on us re-editing the very first film and calling it Paranoia Tapes 10101 Regeneration. So it's more or less like a director's cut for the fans of the series.
And it's okay to take notes of what the listeners or the viewers see this project as, but at the same time, some of them are just trying to ruffle your feathers and try to get up there. But there are also filmmakers out there that don't take that in consideration as well. They just think, oh, well, you're just dogging on my art, you're just dogging on this, and sometimes, the film could be pretty decent, but probably has some flaws in it, but the filmmaker themselves are refusing to acknowledge that or admitting that, and that's a problematic thing for the audience themselves.
Totally agree with you. There's a couple filmmakers out there that consider me as a rival, and their attitude towards their films is like, oh, if you don't like my film, I'm going to block you. If you disagree with my film, I'm going to block you. If you say anything negative towards me about my film, I'm going to block you. You can't be like that. The thing is, I learned the hard way, and I say that because after my first film came out, one of my producers talked to him. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to fucking quit. I'm going to let it go, and I'm just going to stop, because the reviews we were getting were like troll type of reviews. And my friend said this, he said, Jack, just stop right now, because they watched your movie. And I'm like, what? He's like, listen, regardless of what they say under Amazon, iTunes, or wherever it is, people are going to see that. And people are going to watch the film to see if it is like that. And this comes into play when they say any publicity is good publicity. But then some filmmakers will take that and they literally take it to heart, like I almost did, or they're just unprofessional and will completely just block you because you don't agree with it. You know, there was a film that came out this year, I'm not naming names, but it was atrocious, completely atrocious, and it tried to get on the current times and what was going on in America. But it was atrocious. It shouldn't have been made, but instead of this filmmaker taking criticism from it, what he did was he just blocked everyone that disagreed with him and said it was a shit movie. And that's the thing, too, is with filmmakers, you know, when you make a film, you know if it's absolute trash. You know if it's absolute complete shit, okay? And when you put it out there and you get negative response from it, maybe you should probably change up your format and actually show a real film or something better than what you're used to surprise your audience and your fan base.
Oh, I definitely agree. And because attitude, you have to have a bigger and more professional attitude when working with your film and films and so forth, because your audience is what shapes up your next project. It's what gives you that influence and gives you that motivation, and vice versa. It's two ways, but it's not always acknowledged the same way, but it's a different perspective view no matter how you perceive it as in a different way.
Absolutely. It's just attitude goes a long way. Attitude about, you know, your film and the reception from it goes a long way. If you get nothing but negative reviews from it, then keep a positive attitude and don't be upset. Because like I said, if you make a shit film, expect shit results, but still try to be better on your next film. Because if you have the fan base, they're still going to support you and follow you regardless.
Horror is a fine shaping tool, especially for artists. And do you think that oftentimes that display of concept is more present than actually giving a different example to the audience to receive, rather than just displaying of what the story is or displaying what kind of concept it is, rather than giving an example of what kind of horror it can be?
Right, yeah. You don't want to, if you're going to make a horror film in a certain genre, then stick with it. Don't tease the audience in a feature film. If you say you're going to have something in this film based on the poster or based on anything you said, then make sure you have it in the film. And if you're going to rip off Texas Chainsaw Massacre or Jason or any of those classic horror icons in horror film history, then say it. And if you say it, you better make damn sure you present that to your audience. Because if you're just doing this, you're going to say, oh, our film is similar to Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but you have 15 minutes of real footage and then 45 minutes to an hour of stock footage. Your film will not be good. You're gonna get criticism from people that watch the film and be like, what the hell am I watching? Why isn't it what you said it was gonna be? Then somehow that film spawns 5 sequels and you're like the original, nothing but stock footage and stuff like that. You're asking for trouble, really, if you don't present what you said it was gonna be.
It's like the trailer, but it's that first 3 minutes, man. Those first 3 minutes could just be the most anticipating, the most cruel 3 minutes of your life, because when the audience is looking at those first 3 minutes of your movie, what you put there is the display. What you display is the cause and effect, and the effect could either bomb. It all depends what it's leading to, and if it's boring, it's boring. If it bores the audience right there within those first 3 minutes, chances are you're not going to get the same big effect that you wanted to achieve at the end of the film.
Exactly. Like if you show a girl watching TV of your own films for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes straight, or you just show someone walking on a mountain, or you show them just walking around town randomly, not showing anything, you're not going to be taken seriously. And it's the filmmaker's fault. It's no one else's. And the fact that you made people suffer through that, you should be ashamed of yourself.
And as far as the example part, the reason why you have to leave an example of something, leave some kind of a murder that happened, someone jumping out of a window. Why did that person jump out of the window? That's where you lead that audience to, is to wonder, why did this woman jump out of the window? What was she scared of? What happened? Don't show what actually happened before she went out of the window. Give the audience something that they can like really sink their teeth into. Is like, holy crap, what happened? You know? And that's where you have to leave the audience wondering their mind to, because then by like toward the middle of the film, then they understand, oh, okay, well, wow, you know, it's like that's the kind of example that you want to leave. You don't want to just set up a display, here's a monster, oh, what's the deal with the monster? Why is he there? If I have to ask myself why more than 3 times in a film in terms of what's going, chances are I'm not going to be as interested, and I'm only saying for myself and not for other people.
I think the perfect example of what you're talking about is I mean, when it's done right, is the opening of 1996, Wes Craven's Scream with Drew Barrymore. Like, there was so much mystery around this. Why were these people doing the things they were doing? And for the time, before cell phones were really, well, hell, before it was anything, it was a perfect setup for a horror film, because it has a lot of mystery. One, you didn't see her character die. You saw her get stabbed, but you didn't see anything else. And then the reaction from her parents, and then seeing her hang on the tree, like, that was some groundbreaking writing, and they did it right, and it caught you. If you weren't a fan of Nightmare on Elm Street or any of his other horror flicks, this would be the one film where you could be like, holy crap, he did his thing on it.
Oh yeah, dude, and that's where that magic happens, and that's where the audience could actually want more, and that's how it does spawn sequels and so forth, and not just for money purposes, but even audience can grow, and that's what you want to do, man. You want to grow your audience to an extent. Where can you grow your audience? And that's always a big challenge too. How can you grow the audience, and where can you grow it from? Especially you as an indie filmmaker, where can you generate that from? Could it be from just purely horror, or could it be certain antics from the filmmaker themselves of how they perceive a story?
Well, for me, what spawned all the sequels for Paranoia tapes, it was the fan base. You know, we saw that our fan base was growing, and people would ask us, when is the second one coming out? How many are there going to be? And right now, we're up to part 8, and 5 through 8 are being released on Amazon Prime. Like, we got 5 and 6 on Amazon Prime. Now, 7 and 8 are going to be on there, and then 9 will be on there probably in 2021. You want your brand to grow, and you don't want to be boring. Now, I'm going to say, like, there's some sequels in our franchise are not as good as the one prior or the one after. But the fact of the matter is we keep the momentum going, and we connect all of these films to the very first one. I think that's a lot of issues with indie filmmakers, or hell, even Hollywood, depending on what type of film. The continuity. You have to relate the original film to the sequels some way, some shape or form, whether it's time travel, different universe, just anything you can come up with creatively. When you stray away from the path, then you're going to lose your fan base. You're going to lose your cult following, because they either see you sold out, or you just aren't doing the same type of quality stuff. And I really took a step back, and then I came up with the idea for Horror Nights. That was one reason why I don't want to get out of the found footage genre, but I don't want to be known just for found footage. But when you think of found footage in the indie film, if you're in the indie film community, you would think of Paranoia tape. So that's a good thing. That's what we've gained, and that's what we've earned. But for me, as a director and filmmaker, I wanted to do something different, and so that's why I came up with a whole new anthology called Horror Nights.
Do you think that also could be the reason why a lot of these indie filmmakers, their films are mainly just being accepted, but not actually submitted to better platforms, or do you think there's just not enough of actual controlled effort?
I can't speak for everyone, honestly. I can't, because I've had issues with distribution. Our Paranoia tapes is with our distribution company. Every film, every sequel that is in that universe has to go through them. So I'm not going to blame a filmmaker for not getting it on different platforms, because it's all up to distribution. But sometimes distribution companies will rip you off and will say things and not do them, whether or not you sign a contract with them. I think the line drawn is the fact that a filmmaker wants to say, oh, we got worldwide distribution. Yeah, you do, but when is it going to come out? You see, that's a big problem, too, with distribution companies and a horror filmmaker, because there's plenty of films on Facebook and social media that are advertised, but you never see them. And the reason is because the distribution company is the one that is behind it getting out there. I could say I have a movie all day, but if my distribution company doesn't put it out, then I look like a liar, and people get bored with it. So it's not really the filmmaker's fault, but if they choose to go to different platforms and do self-distribution, by all means do it. I think, in all honesty, in my experience in the last 15 years, being a filmmaker and musician and doing anything in the entertainment, I really feel like self-distribution is the new way, because we're gaining ground as indie filmmakers, and Hollywood is paying attention to us now, especially with COVID-19 that hit this world. All their big budget projects are either right now or back on board with certain restrictions or a lot restrictions, and then they see the pain in the ass that it caused. So they go looking for indie films that are doing very well, and then they pick them up, and then they put their stamp on it, and then they push those out. I really think right now, distribution and the way it is, that indie film is on the rise again.
It's really fantastic that they're stepping forward in a more positive light than they used to be.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree with you, man.
Go ahead and plug in any websites or anything that we can check out, especially the release date of these Paranoia tapes, and as well as your podcast show.
Well, for Paranoia tapes 5 through 8, on October 13th, they will be released on DVD throughout the country, and I think they're going to be in every family video store if you have one near you. You can check our website out at itstheSSP.com for all new information on where to find any of our films. You can also put my name in on Amazon Prime. Just put in Jack Hunter and press enter, and all my films, Paranoia tapes 1 through 6, are available on Amazon Prime. Also, you can follow me on Instagram, SSP_horror. We do a lot of stuff through there. We just do a lot of promotion. Also, my band called My Vinyl Asylum. We're on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio. We have 2 music videos released on YouTube. One for our original song called Hide, which has close to 50,000 views, and it was just released a couple days ago. Our music video for a cover song that we did called Apologize by One Republic, featuring the singers Enoch Rome and Brittany Best. That's pretty much where you can find us. If you want to interact with me on Jack Hunter on Facebook, all I ask is that you send me a message first, so I know like you heard it or you heard me on this podcast and you want to talk about film. I'm a normal person just like everyone else. You can always just message me, and when I have time, I'll respond. And you can find Horror Nights actually on Avail TV, on the Roku app, and also on Troma Now. We are officially a part of the Troma family, the people that brought you the Toxic Avenger and Toxic Tutu. We are in that family now.
And there you have it, everybody. That is director and musician Jack Hunter.